So thank you to everyone who chose to come out today and be with us. We know in the world that we live in, you have so many choices, and some people are actually meeting in person by now. And so we're delighted you chose to be with us here now. So I'm going to jump right in, as is my habit and practice, with the thought for this week, which is, do you have any idea how absolutely outrageous it is that we believe that the divine lives in us and as us and through us? This thought is still considered heresy in a lot of places. How dare we be so brazen as to imagine such a thing? We're not even claiming we have to be without error first, or that we have to be enlightened enough to quit making mistakes. We are claiming we are already divine because divine life animates us, and because we are divinity in us, as us, in form right now. So I'm going to reread the spiritual thought that Shelley read a few minutes ago. Ernest Holmes from Ideas of Power, page 95. Now life exists. Nothing is more certain. Life is intelligent. It responds to us. We happen to believe it's a spiritual presence, everywhere equally distributed, and within us and around us and everywhere else. Life, call it God, call it anything you want to. There is something with us and in us, out of whose essence all things are made, and within whose creative imagination all things are formed, and by whose inexorable and immutable laws all things are held in place. This is self-evident. Here we are, and we couldn't be here if these things weren't true. This is absolutely heretical in a lot of places in the world, but it's a core teaching for most of the new thought groups and organizations and philosophies. And from Rumi, just so you know that this is not a new idea, I have been a seeker and still am, but I stopped asking the books and the stars. I started listening to the teaching of my soul. So culturally, most folks aren't conditioned to believe that it's possible or even advisable to listen to the truth of their own souls. There are all these things they have to do first, steps they have to take, promises they have to make until they're finally good enough to be worthy. How do we unlearn this bad programming? Because that's all it is bad programming. But we have been conditioned to believe this as truth ever since we were very, very small and very young. One useful clue, I like to think of it as a breadcrumb trail, was popularized by Dr. Michael Beckwith and first described by Dr. Lloyd Strom and Reverend Marcia Sutton. Strom and Sutton initially called it the 4 kingdoms of consciousness. Beckwith called it the 4 stages of spiritual maturity. Some of you will already be familiar with this language. For some of you, it'll be new. What I appreciate with this model is that everyone lives in it, and everyone moves around at the different stages. Whether they know the model exists or not, whether they believe the model, it doesn't matter. Each one of us lives in this model already. So the first stage of this model is when we believe we're victims, or we have been victimized, that stuff happens to us and we don't have any control in our lives. That song that David sang just a few minutes ago that was so wonderful and rich, there is a tinge of that is still, you held me down, you kept me from, which is that victim consciousness, which is why I say it's so deeply embedded in our psyche. We catch ourselves if we pay attention, And we notice that we have, even if it's just an edge, we have an edge of a belief that someone else can stop us. And a lot of people, this is where they live. This is all they know. And they don't believe that there's any way they can break out. There's no way they can get loose. And a lot of people who walk into religious science or unity centers for the first time are looking for a way out of this stuck spot. They've heard the rumor that it's possible. And as Jeff said earlier today, they've heard it's possible to have a happier life, better health, and more abundant living. And they believe that they can get that here. And they want some of that. That's why they walk in the door in the first place. They've heard that it's possible, and somehow this place is teaching this group of people, this book, this movie, whatever, might be able to show them a way out. That's why a lot of people walk in the door the first time. This is the level at where the secret existed and where the law of attraction looks so enticing. Because it goes from that space of, oh, I can't because I'm not allowed, to, wait a minute, I do have some control. And it's easy to find ourselves stuck in this level. And this is the level of common hour thinking. This is the level where most people live. And we do it automatically. Anytime we shame ourselves or blame ourselves or shame or blame anyone or assign fault to anyone or any group of people or circumstances or ourselves. So this is the default position, right? I'm a victim. I can't help it. I'm just born this way. I'm really stuck. There's nothing I can do. And it's the baby stage of spiritual maturity. And we even fall to this level when we diminish ourselves by saying or thinking, I should have known better. I know better and I did it anyway. It's that same, poor pitiful me, I'm stuck. It's the first stage. It's the first step. We all visit there. It's just a question of how often and how long we stay there every time we visit. So what's the way out of this step? Those of you who have been here a while know the answer to this. We have to take ownership of our thoughts and recognize that how we experience our lives is always within our control. We can start seeing events, happenings, experiences as somehow for our good, for our awakening, for our enlightenment. Epictetus, one of the early Stoics, was quoted as saying, "It isn't the events themselves that disturb people, but only their judgments about them." Once we begin to get a consistent handle on our thoughts, then we begin to notice how our thoughts actually create the experience we have. And then we begin to recognize, this is the gold, we begin to recognize how we can change our thoughts and have a different experience. In the Declaration of Principles, Holmes wrote, "We believe in the healing of the sick through the power of this mind. We believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind." This is actually the first level of mastery, where we feel like we can have a handle on life. It's very directive. It's very, I'm going to tell you what I want. There's nothing wrong with that. Once we've removed our hidden roadblocks, life generally cooperates with us. For many people, this is quite enough power, thank you. And they're delighted to be able to influence, affect, and change the conditions of their lives. And I feel like a Ronco commercial, but wait, there's more. Athletes know about it. Cultural creatives know about it. Musicians know about it. Writers and speakers know about it sometimes. The state is known by a lot of different names, like being in the zone or being in the flow. It's effortless. And it only happens because we've done the work, which may be mental, that we need to do to prepare for the experience and to move ourselves from that I can't possibly victim mentality to that empowered, uplifted mindset. Once we've done the work to move ourselves from I can't to anything's possible, we have made space to allow something more to move us, to lift us, to carry us, to shift us forward. This is that flow state or that zone state, and it lets us touch experiences that are beyond our present level of mastery. Sometimes they go in the direction we intended to travel, and sometimes it's a better direction. These are like mountaintop experiences where we have some feeling or some experience that's beyond our expectations, beyond what we believed was possible, because we made space for it. So how do we touch this level? We take out all the garbage thinking we can find, and we find more, and we take that out too. And we fully move into our own experience of personal power. And then, this is the Ronco commercial, then there's more. We open our consciousness, we open our awareness, we open up the possibility to this or something better. And we absolutely mean it. We move our awareness from that very limited perspective that says we know exactly how to do everything and how everything should be done and what's proper. And we let something new be created in us, for us, through us, that's for the greater good. What does it take? Trust and faith. That's all. Nothing special, right? From Dr. Holmes in The Science of Mind, page 159. Our mind must be steady, that our life is some part of God, and that this spirit is incarnated in us. Not only must we have complete faith in spirit and its ability to know and to do, we must have complete confidence in our approach to it. We must know that we know. Anything less than that won't get us there. Then what? I mean, this is only 3 out of 4, right? There's 4 stages of mastery. What's that 4th level, or the 4th kingdom of consciousness, if we go back to the original? It's where the divine acts as us, which is to say we've eliminated from our own consciousness all sense of God being separate or separated from us. We glimpse what divine unity really looks like. We know we're part of it, and it's part of us. Dr. Michael Beckwith did a video interview that I shared a month or so ago with a podcast guy named Sean Stevenson. And he said, and I thought this was really important, he said, nobody lives at that God as me, divine as me level. We might visit it for a nanosecond. We might visit it for a minute or an hour, or maybe in some extraordinary circumstances for a day. But we can visit it, and we can go back and visit it again. So this is not a one trick thing. And way back when, Teresa of Avila wrote about having a connection with the divine ecstasy. And it actually happened to her a couple times, And she had to be very careful in how she explained it to her universe because, well, the church fathers didn't like it so much that it was possible to do this. And so they were looking for people who had those kinds of experiences because they needed to remove them from the gene pool. She didn't want to be removed. So she was really careful to couch it and explain it in such a way as, this is a special thing. I didn't do anything to have it, and it just happened. And there's a story told about Mother Teresa. She had that contact with divine union or divine unity once, and she spent the rest of her life yearning for it. She didn't realize, because it wasn't part of her teaching, that she could go back and visit it repeatedly. She was left in the space of yearning and desiring and wishing, hoping, but not experiencing. So I don't want you to think that the divine lives as us only when we're at that fourth level. The divine always lives in, as, and through us at our level of understanding. Even if we see ourselves as poor, sick, weak, and unhappy, that's divine mind expressing in us as poor, sick, weak, and unhappy. This is not punishment. It's simply how we are using our mental power. And we can always change our minds and choose a different experience. In Art of Life, some of you will be very familiar with this quote. It's one of my favorites. Dr. Holmes wrote, "Life works by direct affirmation. There's no other way for it to work. That's why we are told to be still and know that all things are possible to God. We are told to affirm, positively to assert, to declare the truth in the face of all apparent opposition, to claim abundance in the midst of poverty, to affirm health in the midst of sickness, to decree joy in the midst of sorrow, to announce the kingdom of God is here and now." So what's ours to do? On purpose, intentionally move ourselves from that victim mindset into that empowered mindset every single time we notice. And then to allow an experience of more than that. And the divine will take care of the rest. So I want to close with one of the paragraphs from yesterday's reading at Daily Morning Practice from Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker, 365 Days of Richer Living. "Within me now, the power of God fulfills all my desires. With me now, divine love makes lovely and gracious my way. Within me now, God's intelligence makes every right decision. I lack for nothing, for the mind which created me is in me and works through me." And then a little piece from Daniel Laporte's book, White Hot Truth, Clarity for Keeping It Real on Your Spiritual Path, from one seeker to another. Yeah, really, that's the name of the book. "I believe that there is a universal, all-pervasive truth that architects life. I believe in its magnificent genius. I believe that we all originate from that source, everything. I sense my creative power. I can recall a place where the we of humanity is the I that is God. I recollect a choice when the we, that is the same as the I that is God, decided to burst out into individual sparks of light, souls, a big bang of consciousness. We went into the cosmic wilderness by choice, an intentional adventure to remember our way back home and to evolve along the way. It was and is the ultimate creative act because life lives to create. So here we are. Remember, put it back together, rebuild, recreate, build a greater experience of the light of God that you are. Do that. Bless yourself and bless us all. Thank you. So now I want to roll straight on into the spiritual mind treatment, that way that we pray that is positive and affirming. So if you can grasp some aspect of your life where you have seen yourself get stuck and you're ready and willing to claim that empowered space, that's a mighty fine place to start. So do that while I speak the words. I know that one life, which is God, which is perfect, complete, and whole, which I recognize as my life now. And I accept it and I receive it. And I let it expand and fill all spaces. I know this truth for myself and for everyone. Each one lives in God, as God, through God, and gets to experience their life as a byproduct of their present level of awareness. So I claim for myself and for all an up-leveling of this awareness, an up-leveling of our consciousness into greater levels of light and order and peace and harmony and love. Because I know that as each one does this, more light, more harmony, more love, more good becomes available in the world. And I know this gift has already been given to each and all, and nothing has to be earned. No one has to become perfect in order to have this experience. They just have to accept it and allow it and let it move in them and through them and as them, and let go of any old nonsense stories that kept them small and insignificant. So I move into the space of greater good and greater awareness and greater peace, joy, and harmony. And I know it has already chosen to manifest through me. And I know it has already chosen to manifest through each and all. So I celebrate this light. I celebrate this opportunity. I celebrate this expansion. I celebrate this embodiment of great good as every single being. And I know each and all is filled to overflowing with possibility, filled to overflowing with opportunity, and with ways to experience greater and greater good. I feel so grateful to have this knowing, to have this awareness, and to know what is indeed possible for each and all. More and more good, more and more life, more and more love. And I celebrate this because I know everyone benefits, and so does everyone else. In this space of light, love, joy, peace, and delight, I relax, allow, and let this be. And so it is.